Hello everyone, welcome to our video lecture class today. In this class we're going to be reviewing some things that we went over last class and getting a bit more practice. Now along the way in this class I'm going to be asking you to solve some problems, so feel free to pause the video and solve and then continue the video to see the solutions. So our first section is 2.7, writing algebraic expressions. We did a lot of practice with this last class. Our first example here is Tim spent half of his allowance going to the movies. He washed the family car and earned $8. What is his weekly allowance if he ended with $17? Now I know many of you guys can do great mental math here and figure out the answer, but I want you to find an equation and solve for the variable in that equation that you created. Please pause the video and solve this problem. Now that you've solved, please check your work. So if Tim spent half of his allowance going to the movies, that represents or reflects the variable being his allowance. So his allowance is X. He spent half of it. So 1/2 times X, or X divided by 2. He also earned $8 by washing the car. And at the end, he ended with $17. So through this, we can now figure out what his allowance was. So we do the inverse operation to get the 8 out of there. And now the inverse operation here is X divided by 2. This is division right now, so the inverse of this will be multiplication. To get the denominator out of there, we multiply, both sides by my denominator. And 2 divided by 2 is 1, which just leaves X by itself. So his allowance was $18. Okay, another example. Oceanside Bike Rental Shop charges $13 plus $9 an hour for renting a bike. Sarah paid $94 to rent a bike. How many hours did she pay to have the bike checked out? Please write an equation and simplify and answer the question. Pause the video, work on that now. Okay, so now as you worked on it, let's begin to create an equation. So Ocean Bike Rental Shop charges $13 plus $9 an hour for renting a bike. So up front they charge $13 plus an additional $9 per hour. So $9 times every hour that you rented for. Overall, Sarah paid $94. So to solve for the number of hours she checked out, we have to solve for X. So we subtract 13 from both sides. And then we do the inverse operation here and divide both sides by 9. Sarah checked the bike out for 9 hours, a full day of bike riding. Okay, so these are two examples of writing algebraic expressions from word problems, creating equations and then solving them to figure out a solution in the problem, for the problem rather. Our next section is 2.9. We worked on this a bit yesterday, but I'm going to go a little bit deeper and get some more practice today. When you have variables on both sides of an equation. Now, if you already know this stuff, work on your speed, how fast you can do this correctly. So our first problem is negative 4x minus 3 equals negative 6x plus 9. Pause and solve this equation. Now that you have solved, let's check the answer. Okay, so first when you get things that are like terms on the same side of the equation, and simplify. So let's deal with the variables first. I got negative 4x on the left side, negative 6x on the right side. I like to make my variables stay positive in terms of the coefficient. So I'm going to get the 6x, negative 6x on the left side. So I have to add 6x to this side and add 6x to this side as I do the inverse operation. So it's going to give me 2x minus 3 equals 9. Now I'm going to combine like terms again. So the negative 3 and the 9 are like terms. So I'm going to get that on the other side. So I'm going to do the inverse operation. And now I have 2x equals 12. So inverse operation of multiplication is division, then divide both sides by 2. Awesome. My next example to the right, 41 minus 2n equals 2 plus n. Please pause and solve the equation. Now that you have solved, let's check your work. I want to combine like terms, so I'm going to get my n terms together. I want my n terms to stay positive, so I'm going to do the inverse operation here, and I'm going to add 2n to both sides to keep my n's positive. And you don't have to keep your n's positive. You can make them negative if you choose to. That's perfectly fine. Okay, so now my n's are combined. Now I have to combine the 41 and the 2 by bringing the 2 to the opposite side. To do that, I have to subtract 2 from both sides. The inverse operation of a positive is the negative there, subtraction. All right, and now I divide both sides by 3, doing the inverse operation here. There we go. If I move to the bottom left example, I've got negative 2x equals negative 3x plus 12 minus 2x. So with variables on both sides of the equation, I need to combine all like terms. So first, on the right side, I see negative 3x and negative 2x on the same side of the equation. So I'm going to combine those right now, since they're already on the same side. So negative 3x and a negative 2x. The operation is going to be the symbol in front of the second term, so this negative sign here, or minus sign. So negative 3x minus 2x. And since negative 3 is negative, if you subtract from a negative number, it just becomes more negative. So that makes negative 5x. And just simplifying and putting the negative 2x and the 12 there. Okay, and now I want to get my x on the same side of the equation. So I'm going to add 5x to both sides as the inverse operation. And negative 2 plus 5 is 3. I divide both sides by 3, doing the inverse operation, and we get 4. Okay, last question on this board. I've got 6x plus 7 equals 8x minus 13. Take a moment to solve the equation. Okay, now that you've solved, let's check your answer. We want to get x terms on the same side, so I'm going to subtract 6x from this side and this side, doing the inverse of the positive 6x there. Now I'm going to add 13 to both sides to get the 13 and the 7 on the same side. And lastly, inverse operation here, dividing both sides by the 2. That's going to give me x equals 10. Okay, last thing today we're going to be looking at, and this variables on both sides, is when we have equations with parentheses. Now this isn't anything new, but it helps to practice this, especially if I'm going to come with equations in the distributive property. Sorry, with parentheses in the distributive property. Okay, so our first example, we have 6 times the quantity of y plus 2 minus 4 equals negative 10. So take a moment to solve the equation. Now that you have solved, our first inclination is to simplify what's in the parentheses, but we can't simplify y plus 2, thus we go right outside of it and we see that the 6 is a multiplier times the quantity of y plus 2, so we multiply and we distribute in. Okay, now we combine like terms. We have the 12 and the minus 4 on the same side, so we simplify that. And now we want to get the 8 and the negative 10 on the same side, so I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. So I get 6y equals negative 10 minus 8. That's going to give me negative 18. Inverse operation here, divide both sides by 6. And y equals negative 3. To the right, I've got negative times the quantity of x plus 7 equals negative 6x plus 8. Please pause the video and practice the problem. Now that you've gotten an answer, let's take a look. We want to simplify the x plus 7 inside. However, we can't as is, so we must distribute inward. Outside of the parentheses is an understood negative 1 here. So that negative 1 distributes into this expression. So we get negative 1 times x is negative x. Negative 1 times positive 7 gives you negative 7. And now we can begin to simplify by combining like terms. Okay, I want to keep a positive variable in this case for me, so I'm going to take the negative 6x and add to the inverse operation of that, and I'll get 5x on this side. I want to get the negative 7 and the 8 on the same side, so I'm going to do the inverse operation here. And we're almost home free. I've got multiplication here, 5 times x, so I'll do the inverse operation, which is division by 5. And we get x is positive 3. Last example. Here we have parentheses on both sides of the equations. So we have 2 times the quantity of negative 3a plus 5 equals negative 4 times the quantity of a plus 4. Please pause and solve the equation. Okay, now that you have solved, here we go. We can't simplify anything inside of the parentheses, so we're going to distribute. So we have 2 times negative 3a, which is negative 6a. 2 times positive 5 gives me 10. On the opposite side, I've got negative 4 times a plus 4. I got to distribute inside. So negative 4a minus 8, because I have negative 4 times a positive 4, which gives me a negative, not negative 8. Negative 16, my apologies. And now I want to combine like terms. So I'm going to combine my a terms. I'm going to add 6a to this side to get rid of it on that side. Add 6a to this side. That's the inverse operation. I get 10 equals 2a minus 16. Now I'm going to add 16 to both sides to do the inverse operation. And 2a equals 26. Now divide both sides by 2. and a equals 13. So please take notes on this and review it if you want to see any processes. Everyone, adios.